Welcome to Gunsmoke Theater. I'm Dennis Daly. Very few radio or television programs had such an impact on their medium that they changed everything. One of those shows was Gunsmoke. Yes, it ran 20 years on television, but the TV show was a child of the radio show, which itself ran nearly a decade. Sit back now for the next hour as we go back into the archives and play some of those great episodes of the show that changed everything, Gunsmoke. For me, one of the very interesting things about Gunsmoke was the way John Meston captured the flavor of the 1880s in the Old West. Towns such as Dodge City that had a railroad found themselves having all kinds of characters come to town by rail. Also, Dodge City was one of those places where a great deal of cattle herders brought their cattle to be loaded onto trains to move to urban areas. And there was always the problem of dealing with the squatters, the people who were not there to homestead but just took some land on their own, the people who came there through the Homesteading Act, and the cattlemen who thought everybody got in their way. So here from the spring of 1956, yet another Gunsmoke.
Gunsmoke, brought to you by Chesterfield. Chesterfield packs more pleasure because it's more perfectly packed, thanks to Accuray. They satisfy the most.
Around Dodge City and in the territory on West, there's just one way to handle the killers and the spoilers, and that's with a U.S. Marshal and the smell of Gunsmoke. Gunsmoke, starring William Conrad, the transcribed story of the violence that moved west with young America, and the story of a man who moved with it.
I'm that man, Matt Dillon, United States Marshal. The first man they look for and the last they want to meet. It's a chancy job, and it makes a man watchful and a little lonely.
You get caught in the rain last night, Matt?
I never left the office, Doc.
I stayed home, too.
Yeah?
For once. Ordinarily, bad weather brings a rash of broken legs and babies with it. All out in the country somewhere.
You always told me living in the open's good for a man, Doc.
I said sun is good for a man.
Well, you'll get some sun next summer, and you'll complain just as hard about that.
When I think I could have an office back in Baltimore. When nice, clean people come to see me.
Yeah, but nobody needs you in Baltimore, Doc.
They get sick there, too, don't they?
Oh, I don't know. I've never been there.
You've never been? He's never been.
Hello, John.
You wouldn't last 2 days in Baltimore, Matt.
No?
No. People are too polite and well-mannered.
Well, you teach me what it's like, Doc, but some other time.
Ah, there, now, you see what I mean? Yeah, that's what I mean. Oh, and Chester here. He could use a little refining, too.
Well, now, don't get carried away, Doc.
Good morning, Mr. Dillon. Oh, Doc.
Good morning, Chester.
Now, what are you doing out here, Chester?
Oh, I got up early this morning.
All right, so you could sit on the porch here and watch the street like an old man?
I already swamped out the office, Mr. Dillon.
Yeah, for the first time in 2 weeks. Maybe you ought to get up early every morning.
I've got too civilized for that.
Oh, he's got two seconds.
Wait a minute. You didn't get up at all this morning. You were still up.
Yes, sir.
How much did you lose?
Oh, I wasn't gambling. I was sitting talking to a little old gal I met, kindly keeping her out of the rain.
Oh.
You know.
Oh, yeah, it's a guy. We know, don't we? Oh, yes. Yeah. And it sure rained a barrel last night, too, didn't it, Chester?
It sure did, Doc.
Who's this?
Some kid. I never seen him before, Mr. Dillon.
You people tell me where I can find a marshal?
You done found him.
What's the trouble, son?
My name's Gilden, Andy Gilden. Just come up from Texas with a herd.
Oh, what's on your mind, Andy?
There's a man been shot, Marshal. An unarmed man.
What?
Up the river a ways, where we're holding the cattle. The trail boss shot him this morning before it got light. We put a guard on the boss.
Oh, what's the name of this outfit?
They're Star M cattle, Marshal.
Star M. Then Harley Burke's the trail boss.
He won't be for long, not after this.
Burke's a man of temper and he's pretty rough, but he's decent. It's hard to believe he'd shoot an unarmed man.
Well, he did, Marshal.
Is the man dead, son?
He's unconscious. Has been right along.
All right, let's get going, Doc.
That whistling man, Bobby Haggart, really started something. Tonight, we'd like to introduce a player piano that could have come right out of the Long Branch in Dodge City.
Packs more pleasure, packs more pleasure. Chesterfield packs more pleasure because Chesterfield's more perfectly packed.
The more perfectly packed your cigarette, the more taste and mildness are released for you. Chesterfield, made by exclusive Accuray, has an open, easy draw that unlocks all the pleasure of fine tobaccos. Now, Accuray ensures an even distribution of tobacco from one end of your Chesterfield to the other. Chesterfield is firm and pleasing to the lips, mild yet deeply satisfying.
Chesterfield packs more pleasure because Chesterfield's more perfectly packed.
To the touch, to the taste, Chesterfield packs more pleasure because it's more perfectly packed. Buy Chesterfield. Mild, yet they satisfy the most.
Where is the man, Andy?
He's over yonder, behind that bush.
There's a lot of bush around this camp. Suppose you show me.
All right.
I'm going to talk to Burke, Doc. You let me know what you find, huh?
I will, man.
Hey, you the marshal?
Yeah, that's right.
Just look at the guard they got around Burke there, Mr. Dillon.
Uh-huh.
I set the men to holding him, Marshal. He ain't gonna get away.
Now, who are you?
I'm Ruman, Jack Ruman.
You help run this outfit?
No, I'm just a rider. Well, someone had to take over.
All right, Ruben, you can tell those men to fall back now.
All right. Stand back now, you men. The law's here.
Hello, Burke.
Marshal?
Tell me you shot a man.
Oh, he shot him all right, Marshal. And Hodges wasn't even armed.
I wasn't asking you, Ruben.
You gotta hear the truth. Burke here had done nothing but fight with Hodges the whole trip. On his neck about something every minute. Go on, you gotta admit it, Burke.
I had no use for him.
You hated him.
He was lazy and no good. Of course I hated him.
Burke, I've known you a good many years. You're as rough a trail boss as there is. You're rock-headed and you drive the men as hard as you do yourself, and I've seen you be downright mean about it.
Could be.
But I sure never figured you'd shoot a man.
Yeah, surprised me too, Marshal.
All right, tell me what happened.
It was raining. I'd been out with a guard. Only dry spot I could find when I come in was way over there by Hodges. I went to sleep, and he must have woke up and seen who it was. Then he come over and kicked me in the head. Hurt me bad, but somehow I got a bullet in him before I blacked out.
You didn't know he was unarmed.
What difference it make, Marshal?
Make a lot of difference if he doesn't live.
Doc here'll know about that.
No.
Hello, Burke.
Doc?
Well, Doc, how is he?
He's dead.
Burke?
I know. I'll get my stuff together and come with you, Marshal.
Who's going to boss this outfit now?
Oh, Andy Gillen.
Andy? He's just a kid.
His pa owns this herd, Marshal.
Oh.
What do you want, Burke?
Andy, your pa sent you on this drive to make a man out of you.
Working for a murderer?
You're boss now. Sell the herd, pay off the men, and get the rest of the money back to your pa. Can you do that? I'll be right with you, Marshal.
Fine boss he was. Hey, Reuben, let's start moving them cattle downriver.
All righty. Let's go, you men.
Well, what do you think, Doc?
Well, Matt, that man Hodges was shot in the head. And by somebody who was lying on the ground.
Oh, Burke admits doing it.
Then I guess he did it all right.
Yeah, but there's something he isn't telling me, Doc. And knowing Harley Burke, I'm going to have a hard time finding out what it is. Oh, hey, Sam.
Yeah, Marshal.
Bring me a beer, huh?
Why, sure.
Evening, Marshal.
Ah, hello, Reuben.
You get Burke down to jail all right this morning?
Yeah, he's in jail.
Ever I seen a man earn the hanging, he's it.
Oh? I take it you don't like him, Reuben.
We got along just fine, Marshal. Hey, you ain't seen Andy Gilden, have you?
Yeah, he's been sitting over there with Kitty.
Where?
No, there he goes out the door. Looks like he's pretty drunk, too.
He is drunk. Been hunting everywhere for him.
Here you are, Marshal.
Oh, thanks, Sam. I think I'll take that beer over to the table with me. Hello, Kitty.
You sure take your time, Matt.
No. What's wrong?
You saw me sitting here with that drunken kid. Why didn't you come over?
Well, Andy Gilden may be a kid, but his pa owns the Star M, and Andy's now boss of the outfit.
I heard all about his paw.
He must be a rich man.
And he wasn't talking about his money.
Oh?
He hates him, Matt. I never heard anything like it.
Oh, why?
The old man's too strict, probably. Like sending him up the trail just to make a man out of him.
Yeah. Now that hasn't hurt him, Kitty.
Matt, I think that boy'd kill his pa if he had a chance. All he talked about was how he'd like to get back at him. Well, what are you staring at me for?
What? Oh, I'm sorry, Kitty. I was just thinking.
Thinking about what?
I'm glad I talked to you, Kitty. Maybe now I can find out what Harley Burke's holding back from me.
I sure don't understand you, Marshal.
Oh, why not, Burke?
Come in this morning, turned me out of jail. Now you're taking me down to the stock pens. What for?
Well, I thought you'd like to know how young Gilden made out with the sale of those cattle.
I think you're lying.
Now, there he is with that fellow Reuben again. They seem to be pretty good friends, don't they?
I guess.
You just won't tell me anything, will you, Burke?
I'll tell you anything you want to know, Marshal.
Oh, yeah, sure. Morning, Andy.
Yeah.
Reuben.
What's Harley Burke doing out of jail?
That man gets cramped in there. I was walking him around a little.
Well, I ain't gonna be seen with no murder. Andy, I'll be in my room at the Dodge House should you want me.
Okay.
Did you sell the herd, Andy?
I sold it.
You get a good price?
It's no business of yours, Burke. Not no more.
Now, we can always find out from the agent, Andy.
All right. I got $20,000. Payable tomorrow.
20,000's a fair price. Your pa'll be pleased.
Why don't you take it to Mr. Bodkin at the bank tomorrow, Andy? He'll give you a note for it.
I don't need no bank. And I don't need no advice either, Marshal.
Now, look, Andy, you can't carry that money home in cash.
Why not?
Nobody does. There's too many jayhawkers and bushwhackers waiting along the trail. Now, you know that.
I don't know nothing. Except you can leave me alone. Both of you.
We're only trying to help, Andy.
I'll do my job, and you do yours, Marshal. You go hang Harley Burke.
Well, Burke?
Well, the boy's kind of headstrong, Marshal.
That's all you've got to tell me, huh?
That's all.
All right, then let's get back to jail.
Where are you listening to Gunsmoke? In your kitchen? Getting ready for Sunday supper? Maybe in your living room, relaxing? Or out driving? Say, be sure and watch the road. But remember, there's pleasure ahead when you smoke Chesterfield. When you satisfy yourself with Chesterfield's better taste and mildness. You see, Chesterfield packs more pleasure because it's more perfectly packed. A more perfectly packed cigarette gives you an open, easy draw that unlocks all the better taste and mildness of fine tobaccos. And Chesterfield, made by exclusive Accuray, is more perfectly packed, with an even distribution of tobacco from one end of your Chesterfield to the other. Firm and pleasing to the lips, mild, yet deeply satisfying. Remember, to the touch, to the taste.
Chesterfield packs more pleasure because Chesterfield's more perfectly packed.
Buy Chesterfield. Mild, yet they satisfy the most.
You sure are in a hurry, Mr. Dillon.
I want to find Andy before he talks to Room Chester. It's been over a half hour already.
There's his room, if he's in it.
Yeah, well, let's hope he is.
Who is it?
Open up, Andy.
What do you want now, Marshal?
Your gun.
Here now. What are you taking my gun for?
For Chester to hold on you while he's walking you to jail.
Jail? Well, you're talking crazy, Marshal.
Keep your voice down. Now, here's his gun, Chester. And you put him in a far cell. And you keep him quiet, huh? Real quiet.
I understand. Come on, get moving, Andy.
Ow! Now, look here.
You don't shut up, I'll lump up your head with this gun.
You can't arrest me. I ain't done nothing.
Get moving.
You can't do this.
Of course I can't. Keep walking off the block.
Why, hello, Marshal.
I'd like to talk to you, Roman.
Sure, come on in.
Roman, have you seen Andy Gilden in the last half hour?
Why, sure. You was there, at the stock pen. Why?
Well, a few minutes ago, he was seen leaving town, riding north.
So?
I saw him myself. He was riding awful fast, Roman.
A lot of men ride out of town, Marshal. Maybe he's got a gal out the country somewhere.
Yeah, maybe.
Why, what you thinking?
I was with the agent who bought the Star M herd.
Yeah?
He got the $20,000 up today, and he didn't have to wait till tomorrow.
Say he was headed north?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Texas is south of here.
Stealing that money. Stealing it from his own pa.
Looks that way.
Well, ain't you going after him, Marshal?
Well, he's a Gildan. I kind of look on it as a family matter, Ruman.
And I'm going after him.
No, you're not. You go after him, there'll be a fight, maybe a killing. We'll let his pa worry about it.
I'm going after him, Marshal. You can't stop me.
Can't I, Roman?
Yeah, Marshal. You got Burke back in jail?
Yeah.
Well, I got something to say. And I want him to hear it, too.
Cells are out back, Roman, through that door there.
All righty.
Burke, Roman's got something he wants both of us to hear.
Rumen, huh? Well, I've been waiting long enough.
What do you mean?
It was you kicked me in the head and shot Hodges. You know what you're gonna say?
It was not me done it.
Of course it was.
Now, don't be a fool, Burke. What'd I get out of it? I don't hate old man Gildan. I don't want to steal his money.
Nobody stole his money.
Mean you ain't heard?
Heard what?
Andy got paid off for them cattle today, and he rode out of town headed north.
He did, huh?
And what's more, he told me he killed Hodges.
He's lying, and I can prove it. Shut up, Andy.
They tricked us. Andy, they tricked us. They got us crossing each other.
Roman killed him, and I can prove it.
Oh, I'll kill you for that.
Roman! Chester?
Yes, sir. He got him all right. Shot him right in the head. He's dead.
What'd you let him do that for, Marshal?
Well, he wouldn't have talked if I'd have disarmed him, Burke. I had to take a chance.
Yeah, I guess you did.
Maybe if you'd have talked, none of this would have happened.
Well, I knew I didn't shoot that man, Marshal. But I knew the only way I'd ever find out who did was to just wait and see what they was after.
You knew they were in it together down at the stock pens. You knew they were going to keep the money.
Yeah, but I didn't know which one was the killer.
Well, it doesn't matter much now. Andy's dead and Rumen will hang anyway. But why were you protecting the two of them? Why did you take the blame?
Because I was afraid it might have been the kid that done it. Old man Gildan's the best friend I got in this world. I couldn't never have faced him if I'd brought his boy up here to hang.
No. I understand the boy hated him.
But he didn't hate Andy, Marshal. All he wanted was for him to be a man.
Well, something went wrong with that.
Sure did.
Burke.
Yeah?
You did all you could. When the old man hears the whole story, he'll know what a good friend you've been.
In a moment, our star, William Conrad.
Chesterfield packs more pleasure because Chesterfield's more perfectly packed.
Chesterfield, made by exclusive Accuray, packs more pleasure because it's more perfectly packed. Unlocks all the pleasure of fine tobacco.
Chesterfield packs more pleasure because Chesterfield's more perfectly packed.
Firm and pleasing to the lips. Chesterfield. Mild. Yet they satisfy the most.
You know, one of the most unpopular men on the frontier was the peace officer. Most everyone felt that they had some reason to dislike him. But next week, a man arrives in Dodge who wants to be marshal. And that was the West. Good night.
Gunsmoke. Produced and directed by Norman MacDonald, stars William Conrad as Matt Dillon, U.S. Marshal. Our story was specially written for Gunsmoke by John Meston, with music composed and conducted by Rex Corey. Sound patterns by Tom Hanley and Bill James. Featured in the cast were William Idelson, Lawrence Dobkin, and Vic Perrin. Parley Bear is Chester, Howard McNear is Doc, and Georgia Ellis is Kitty.
Smokers, this is it. L&M filters. So good to your taste, so quick on the draw.
Make today your big red letter day, your L&M red letter day. Superior taste and filter, it's the miracle tip. Make today your big red letter day. Change to L&M today.
L&M, so good to your taste.
So quick on the draw.
Get L&M today.
Relax with L&M. So good to your taste, so quick on the draw.
Join us again next week for another specially transcribed story on Gunsmoke.
Our second entry this time around is a really interesting episode for a couple of reasons. Our old friend John Daner is in this one. It's some of the best acting by Parley Bear, showing just how sensitive the character of Chester is, but it also shows the reverse side of power. Now, Matt Dillon never shot to kill unless he had to, much as the Lone Ranger did. Dillon prided himself in his ability to be a detective, but also a manager of people. But what happens if someone comes to town who thinks that he or she can do a better job at being marshal than Matt Dillon can? Well, that's the subject of this episode, and the guy who thinks he knows it all is played by John Daner.
Gunsmoke, brought to you by Chesterfield. Chesterfield packs more pleasure because it's more perfectly packed, thanks to Accuray. They satisfy the most.
Around Dodge City and in the territory on West, there's just one way to handle the killers and the spoilers, and that's with a U.S. Marshal and the smell of gun smoke. Gunsmoke, starring William Conrad, the transcribed story of the violence that moved west with young America, and the story of a man who moved with it.
I'm that man, Matt Dillon, United States Marshal. The first man they look for and the last they want to meet. It's a chancy job, and it makes a man watchful and a little lonely.
This the marshal's office?
Yeah, come in, stranger.
You're Marshal Dillon?
I am.
My name's Egan, Marshal. Emmett Egan.
I'm glad to know you. This is Chester Proudfoot.
How do you do?
Hello.
The purpose of my visit may surprise you, Marshal.
Well, if it doesn't mean trouble, it sure will.
I've just deposited $50,000 in the bank here.
Huh?
That's a lot of money, Egan.
Well, it's taken me ever since the war to earn it. I've been up in Chicago, Marshal, running cattle auctions for a man named Swift, but I'm through with that now.
Oh?
I'm going to try something new. Marshal, I don't intend any insult. But if you need money, name your price.
I'm afraid I don't follow you, Egan.
I want your job.
What?
I want to be marshal here.
All right, say it out, Egan.
I'm serious, Marshal. There are no tricks to this. I've been to Washington, and the War Department's endorsed my application, but they tell me there are no openings, so I came to Dodge. I thought if I can somehow persuade you to quit, maybe they'll put me on here.
I think you are serious.
Oh, I am. It's simple enough. I'm tired of the kind of work I was doing, and I want to try this. Something exciting.
Oh, I see.
What would you advise me to do, Marshal?
Go back to Chicago. You're a lot safer there.
You think I'm not qualified to be a lawman?
Well, you're wearing a gun.
Well, I'm accustomed to authority, Marshal. I was a major under General McClellan. Took my first bullet in the Chickahominy in '62.
I see. Is this your first trip to the frontier, Mr. Egan?
It's my first since '67.
Uh-huh. Well, I still advise you to go back to Chicago.
No, Marshal.
All right, Mr. Egan, you want this job so bad, you can have it, as far as I'm concerned.
Now, Mr. Dillon.
There's very little money in it and absolutely no thanks. I've been a live target for every drunken bum and glory hunter in Kansas about long enough.
You mean it, Marshal?
Yeah, but on one condition.
Yeah?
That you hang around for a week, see what it's like. And then if you still want it...
Oh, I'll want it all right.
All right, then we'll start right now.
I'm ready. What do we do first?
You all set, Chester?
My. Yes, sir, I guess so.
All right, then follow me.
That whistling man, Bobby Haggart, really started something. Tonight, the Calypso Boys join in. Ready, amigos?
Packs more pleasure, packs more pleasure. Chesterfield packs more pleasure because Chesterfield's more perfectly packed.
The more perfectly packed your cigarette, the more taste and mildness are released for you. Chesterfield, made by exclusive Accuray, has an open, easy draw that unlocks all the pleasure of fine tobaccos. Now, Accuray ensures an even distribution of tobacco from one end of your Chesterfield to the other. Chesterfield is firm and pleasing to the lips, mild yet deeply satisfying.
Chesterfield packs more pleasure because Chesterfield's more perfectly packed.
To the touch, to the taste, Chesterfield packs more pleasure because it's more perfectly packed. Why Chesterfield? Mild, yet they satisfy the most.
My gracious, why don't you sit down and rest a spell, Mr. Egan?
No, thanks.
He's gonna wear himself out walking up and down that way.
Yeah. You got a match, Chester.
Cigarette. Here.
Oh, thanks.
Dodge sure ain't very lively today, is it?
Not very.
If I only had me a knife, I could do a little whittling.
Now, what happened to your knife, Chester?
Well, it was about wore out, so I traded it to a small kid I know for a flipper.
Why don't you get yourself another one?
Mr. Dillon, I am so mean poor, I just couldn't stand the outlay of another knife.
Yeah, I forgot.
Hey, look there. Somebody hadn't ought to be in town.
Oh, where? Who?
That fella coming up the street, riding that sleigh back to old Broodmare. See him?
He looks like a farmer.
If you call a man whose wife hoes a 10-yard patch of mealy potatoes a farmer, then he's one, all right.
You said he shouldn't be in town. He can't be very dangerous.
He's dangerous to himself.
Oh, what do you mean?
Why, he gets a doggone drunk every time he comes in here. He can't hardly climb back up on that old mare. And when he does, he usually falls off summers before he gets home and lays out there on the prairie all night like a dead man. It's a pure wonder he ain't been et by something.
Oh, Marshal, we've been hanging around this porch for 3 hours. I'm beginning to feel like a bum myself.
Now, that's part of the job, Egan. Keeping an eye on things, we call it.
Keeping an eye on things? You and Chester both are fighting to stay awake.
Are you calling it quits, Egan?
Oh, no. Of course not.
Then let's go get a cup of coffee, huh? It'll be dark soon, and we can start making the rounds.
What's the name of this place, Marshal?
It's called the Long Branch. Oh, here comes somebody you ought to know.
Evening, Mac.
Oh, Kitty.
How long you been sitting here?
No, not long. Kitty, this is Emmett Egan.
How do you do, Miss Kitty?
Mr. Egan?
Why don't you sit down?
Uh-huh. I hear you may be our new marshal.
What? Now, how in the world...
Well, Chester was in a while ago. It's true, isn't it?
Well, it isn't exactly settled yet, Miss Kitty.
But you want the job.
Yes.
Why?
Well, let's say I was bored with what I was doing.
Sure. That's happened to a lot of ex-soldiers. They can't stand peacetime.
Me in particular, I guess.
Why don't you re-enlist? The cavalry keeps busy out here.
I tried that, Miss Kitty.
You did?
Back in 67.
67? Oh, yeah. The Cheyenne and the Sioux were real active that year, weren't they?
Yes, they were, but not where the cavalry was.
Wait a minute. Were you with General Hancock?
That's right, Marshal. We took to the field for 4 months. We marched and counter-marched all over this country, and then we returned to Fort Harker.
Well, what was wrong with that?
All we did was burn one empty village, kill 2 young Cheyenne braves, both of whom we later found out were friendly. It took 1,100 men to do that.
Oh.
Dillon.
Yeah, what is it, Chester?
I don't know for sure, but I hear there's some kind of trouble down at Moss Grimmick's stable.
Well, it's about time something happened around here.
Yeah. Now, don't forget, Egan. When it does, somebody usually dies. What's the trouble here, men? Where's Moss Grimmick, Chester?
Well, he ain't here, Mr. Dillon. They say Leonard Phibbs there's the one who knows about it.
Oh, Phibbs, a little sodbuster?
Yes, sir. Hey, Phibbs, come here.
What's going on here, Phibbs?
Inside, Marshal. Back there in the stall.
Oh, what's back there?
Bad, Marshal. Real bad. Don't nobody go in there. It's real bad.
What is? Who's in there, Phibbs?
Not even you, Marshal. Not nobody. Leave him alone, I'm warning you.
Oh, he ain't got good sense, Mr. Dillon. No use talking to him.
It's real bad in there.
Yeah, something's got him scared half to death. I'm going to go take a look. You stay here, Chester.
I'm going with you, Marshal.
Look, Egan, I don't know what's in there. It could be a crazy man with a gun looking for blood. It could be anything.
Action is what I came here for, Marshal, and you said I could hang around.
All right. But you get out of the way if there's any shooting.
I'm not entirely a novice with a gun, Marshal.
No, but you're not a professional either. Now stay at least 10 paces behind me.
Right. see anything?
No. It's Marshal Dillon. Who's in here? Come on, speak up.
Maybe he's hiding, waiting for you.
Well, he can't see me any better than I can see him.
You're taking an awful chance, Marshal.
You stay where you are, Egan. What? What's this? Chester, bring a lantern. All right, Egan.
What is it, Marshal?
Nothing we have to kill.
What do you mean?
You'll see when Chester brings the light.
Oh, he's coming.
What have you found, Mr. Dillon?
Hold the lantern over here, Chester.
Yes, sir. Oh, my goodness. Somebody's gone and hung a man.
So that's it. That poor devil. Was this a lynching, Marshal?
No, Egan, that's old Tom Sanders. He's been drunk for 20 years. Yeah, I guess he finally decided to break the habit. You won't get any action out of this. Well, Egan, it's been nearly a week. Enough excitement for you?
I must admit, Marshal, it's not quite what I'd expected. Somehow the idea Marshal was always busy, doing things.
You mean gunfighting?
I've told you I don't think gunfighting's necessary.
Yeah, I remember.
Any man accustomed to command should be able to control these Dodge City ruffians without much trouble.
I only draw my gun as a last resort, Egan. And besides, you haven't seen any of these men in action yet.
I still want the job, Marshal.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, Matt?
Yeah, come on in, Doc.
Say, Matt, you'd better get over the Texas Trail.
Oh?
You know those fellas Gear and Bozeman?
Yeah, I know him.
Well, they've got that poor little Leonard Phibbs at the bar there, and they're trying to make him pay for their drinks. He's broke, of course, so they're beating him up. They're doing it real slowly, bit by bit. I tell you, it just makes you sick to watch it.
All right, Doc.
Wait, Marshal.
Yeah, what?
Let me handle this.
Look, Egan, Gear and Bozeman may be a couple of bullies, but that doesn't mean they're not dangerous. They are.
Are you afraid I might be able to handle them, Marshal? Well?
Okay, go ahead. Here, take my badge. Tell them you're a deputy.
Thank you, Marshal.
You gotta learn one way or the other.
Where are you listening to Gunsmoke? In your favorite easy chair? Or out driving? Oh, there you are. In the kitchen. Say, you want to make whatever you're doing more enjoyable? Have a Chesterfield. Enjoy Chesterfield's better taste and mildness. You see, Chesterfield packs more pleasure because it's more perfectly packed. A more perfectly packed cigarette gives you an open, easy draw that unlocks all the better taste and mildness of fine tobaccos. And Chesterfield, made by exclusive Accuray, is more perfectly packed, with an even distribution of tobacco from one end of your Chesterfield to the other. Firm and pleasing to the lips, mild, yet deeply satisfying. Remember, to the touch, to the taste.
Chesterfield packs more pleasure because Chesterfield's more perfectly packed.
Buy Chesterfield. Mild, yet they satisfy the most.
Come on, Chester.
I knew you wouldn't leave Mr. Egan all alone.
Nobody will look for us coming in the back door. Now, let's move a little closer.
Egan's facing him, Mr. Dillon.
Yeah.
Oh, look at poor little Bibbs. They got him all bloody.
What makes you think you can do this to a man? Is there no law where you come from?
We come from Dodge, Mr. Deputy. Where do you come from?
Are you Bozeman or Gear?
I'm Bozeman, Mr. Deputy. I'm the one who generally does the talking, but we both do the fighting.
You're out of order, Bozeman.
What's that?
I said you're out of order. I will not tolerate your insolence.
I'm not sure, Mr. Deputy. But are you saying you don't like us?
That's enough. You and Gear will turn and face the bar while I take your guns.
You're the most doggone foolish man I ever saw, Mr. Deputy.
Do as I say.
Why? Because you're wearing a badge?
That's reason enough?
Now, Mr. Deputy, that may be reason enough for
There'll
you.
be no shooting. I'm ordering you to face the bar.
I guess there's no use talking to you, Mr. Deputy. I'll take him along here.
He's going to...
Hold it, Bozeman! All right, that's enough. Now, go ahead, Bozeman. Try it again.
Now, wait, Marshal.
You knew he couldn't handle a gun. You know I can. Is that it?
Your gun against two of us?
Quit talking, Bozeman.
Don't try it, Gear.
All right, then do as my deputy told you. Face the bar.
Sure. Sure, Marshal.
Chester.
Yes, sir. You want me to lock him up, Mr. Dillon?
Here are the guns, Chester. I'll be at Doc's. Maybe he can save Bozeman here from hanging. Yeah, it's getting light out, Doc.
It generally does this time of morning.
Yeah, but I'm not generally sitting up waiting for a man to die.
He isn't going to die, Matt.
Well, I saw what that bullet did to him.
You feel guilty, don't you, Matt?
Wouldn't you, Doc?
Yes, I guess I would.
Doc?
Oh, what? Well, he's conscious. Well, how do you feel, Egan?
Pretty fair, Doc. I've been lying here, listening to you talk.
Well, you mean you've been conscious for some time?
Half hour, maybe. I wanted to get my head clear.
Well, a few weeks in bed and it'll be clear enough.
I guess I was lucky.
If that bullet had gone 1 inch to the left, you'd have died on the floor, Egan. You were lucky, all right.
God protects fools and drunkards, isn't it? Marshal Dillon.
Yeah.
I heard you saying you felt guilty about this. It wasn't your fault.
And I should have known what had happened.
But I heard you telling Doc how it happened. You faced them the same way I did. They didn't shoot you.
It's a little different with me, Egan.
How?
This is my profession.
I've handled enough men to be professional.
Egan, why do you think Bozeman did what I told him to do?
Because he knew you'd shoot if he didn't?
He not only knew I'd shoot, he knew I'd kill him. He knows I can handle a gun pretty well. In that part of the profession, they don't teach in the Army. Takes years and years to learn.
Well, I can't complain anymore about there not being enough action, can I, Marshal?
Yeah, your week's up today, Egan. You want the job?
Marshal, you ever been in California?
Not for some time.
I hear things are pretty active out there. I'll write you and tell you all about it.
In a moment, our star, William Conrad.
Chesterfield packs more pleasure because Chesterfield's more perfectly packed.
Chesterfield, made by exclusive Accuray, packs more pleasure because it's more perfectly packed. Unlocks all the pleasure of fine tobacco.
Chesterfield packs more pleasure because Chesterfield's more perfectly packed.
Firm and pleasing to the lips. Chesterfield. Mild. Yet they satisfy the most.
You know, there were a lot of ways for death to come to a man on the frontier. All of them hard. But next week, a man meets death the hardest way of all, at the end of a rope. But that was the West. Good night.
Gunsmoke. Produced and directed by Norman McDonald, stars William Conrad as Matt Dillon, U.S. Marshal. Our story was specially written for Gunsmoke by John Meston, with music composed and conducted by Rex Corey. Sound patterns by Tom Hanley and Bill James. Featured in the cast were John Daner, James Nusser, and Harry Bartell. Parley Bear is Chester, Howard McNear is Doc, and Georgia Ellis is Kitty.
Smokers, this is it. L&M filters. So good to your taste, so quick on the draw.
Make today your big red letter day, your L&M red letter day. Superior taste and filter, it's the miracle tip. Make today your big red letter day. Change to L&M today.
L&M, so good to your taste.
So quick on the draw.
Get L&M today.
Relax with L&M. So good to your taste, so quick on the draw.
Join us again next week for another specially transcribed story on Gunsmoke.
Another one of those great episodes in which Matt Dillon has to tell somebody from out of town just what life is like in Dodge City, and Egan there played by the great John Daner. We've talked about the past and the career of William Conrad, but now let's talk about Parley Bear. Parley Edward Bear, born in August of 1914 in Utah and died November 22, 2002. He had a circus background and began his radio career at the big booming KSL radio in Salt Lake City. His first network show was The Whistler. You remember The Whistler? Let's see if I can do it here. "13 Notes, written by the same guy who did a lot of the music for I Love Lucy, Wilbur Hatch. Parley Bear did an awful lot of acting in radio, and one of the great things about Parley Bear was that he never seemed to be acting. He was on just about any radio show you can mention. And then in his later years, he would not only be Ernie the Keebler Elf, but he would also be Mayor Stoner on Mayberry, playing opposite Howard McNear, Floyd the Barber, who was Doc on Gunsmoke. I guess what goes around comes around. Anyway, the portrayal of the sensitive, wonderful, not too well-educated, but extremely loyal Chester was Parley Bear. Parley Bear, one of those great people who dedicated his life to broadcasting and entertainment, the kind of person that made Gunsmoke possible. And that's it for this time around. I'm Dennis Daly. Thanks for joining me on Gunsmoke Theater as we go back into the archives to play more of the episodes of the radio show that changed everything for the better. Gunsmoke, right here on YouTube.